Hello there, I'm Gloria Makarenko. Now you hear the saying all the time, do what you love. Well, today you're going to meet people who are living that dream. This is Our Vancouver. Coming up, businesses bringing joy to wedding celebrations are busy again. And Vancouver's Lara Wong is a rising star of flamenco music in Spain. But first, no half-baked plans for a Vancouver chef who has created a neighborhood haven for sweet treats. Now, remember when the pandemic started and we were all at home baking? Well, our guest today embodies that movement towards sourdough and all things made in the oven. Tracy Steele left her full-time job in 2017 to train in pastry and baking in Paris and San Francisco. And then she and her husband opened the Bench Bakehouse on Commercial Drive a year before the pandemic started. Tracy, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. This is really monumental because you are our first in-studio guest since the pandemic started. So I'm glad we can do this safely.
It's great to be here.
I know you're here on your own. We didn't even have a team to help you set all of this up. So thank you. Thank you so much. I wish you could smell this because it absolutely smells gorgeous right now. I'm getting pastry, butter, vanilla, all of those beautiful scents. But let's talk about your journey. How did you get into baking in the first place? You know, to the extent that you say, I'm quitting my job, I'm doing this full time.
I always loved baking, and it was always something that I did at home ever since I was a kid. And, you know, doing a bakery or something food related was always something that was in my mind. And eventually I just said, you know what, it's now or never. And I left, and my husband and I decided, why don't we kind of make a little bit of an adventure out of it and go to Paris, live for a bit, take a pastry course, and kind of see, you know, is it something that I really like? Am I good at it? And see what happens. And well, this is what happened.
Yes, it's something I really like, and yes, I'm good at it. Right? That was good. Okay, so then comes the Bench Bakehouse. So what's your concept? What kind of plan did you go in with?
Well, the bakery is open concept, so we do everything from scratch. All of the, you know, pastries, creams, fillings, everything's done from scratch. And so we wanted to, you know, let everybody see into the kitchen. And so it's an open concept. Customers can see the bakers making everything from scratch. And it's also nice for the bakers because they, you know, most people get into baking because they like to feed people and they like to make people happy through food. And so they get to, you know, see the customers coming in and happy and get that feedback. So it's really great for customers and for the bakers.
Oh, I'm glad everyone's having a good time.
Yeah.
But then the pandemic hit, right?
Yeah. Then
Then
everybody was home and they were hungry and they wanted bread and they wanted things that were comforting. So we just kept making as much bread and as many pastries as we could make, and then expanded into some bake-at-home products, and we just kept doing as much as we could.
Let's talk bake-at-home. Let's go over here because these are all frozen.
Yes.
So what have we got here?
So we have our croissant, pain au chocolat, and then the cinnamon buns.
Cinnamon buns, and those are hard right now.
And then hot cross buns. So we do the traditional with candied fruit that we do in-house, and raisins and apricots, and then a chocolate hot cross buns.
Okay, moving on next. So this is how they would come out of the freezer. You pick them up at your place or get them delivered?
Pick them up, and the night before, before you go to bed, just put them out on a pan like this, leave them on the counter, and then the next morning...
This is what you'd wake up to? And then...
Turn the oven on, and there we go.
So
it's that easy.
You could fool, if you had some house guests, you could fool them and just say, oh, I just whipped up these croissants last night, and wake up to...
They would wake up to the smell, and
And again, getting back to the smell. It's Easter time. Let's go to the next stage of the hot cross bun. So how would you approach preparing these?
The bake at home come with a little piping bag.
Well, you do it all. You do it all. You just make it so easy.
Yeah. There's the glaze and the cream to do the crosses.
Okay.
And so normally we would just...
I like looking at all the different stages in the process as well. Yeah. Oh, isn't that cheating when you're doing them all at once? No, not really.
And then, if you're at home, you could, do different things. You could make a little happy face if you wanted
happy
to.
Face hot cross bun. So this is something you could do with the kids at home as well?
You're at home, so you could do it however you want.
This is beautiful.
You could put initials or...
You know what I love, though, is how you can fool your friends into thinking you're the great baker.
Yeah.
Do people do that? Do people ever have to actually say where they got the products?
No.
No, don't tell.
No.
Easter's coming up, and you've got sort of a whole Easter spread here. Why don't you take us through what all of this is going? Oh, I dropped the bunny.
We have decorated sugar cookies, where we have one of our amazing bakers does all of them by hand. We also have cookie kits, so it's great for the kids or adults to decorate their own cookies at home. And then quiche, our passion fruit layer cake.
Look at that. Look how gorgeous that looks. Okay, keep going.
And then an assortment of our pastries. So you could pre-order everything online, pick it up. You could pick it up, well in advance and just pop it in the oven or take it out of the freezer the night before and pop it in the oven Easter Sunday, and there we go. We've got brunch.
It smells like Easter in here right now because I'm getting the cinnamon and the raisins even from the hot cross buns you brought in here today. Tracy, a very happy Easter to you.
Yes.
Thank you again for coming in and
much.
bringing so much beauty and warmth to the studio. So nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Hello, my name is Jason, and this is Our Vancouver.
All right, it's time for one of our favorite features. This is where we get to showcase a number of the photographs sent in by you, our audience. First up, Renee Warren was out for a walk early one Saturday morning recently and took in this wonderful image of Vancouver at that special time of day. Thank you, Renee. Beautiful. And Jackie Eatman was in Bear Creek Park in Surrey and spotted this majestic owl in the tree. Jackie, thank you very much. Just lovely. And finally, Tian Tian was out for a windy, rainy walk in New Westminster over last weekend and found the beauty in a rain-kissed blossom. Just wonderful. Tian, thank you very much. And do send us more. It's easy. Just email your favorite photographs to us at bcphotos@cbc.ca. That's bcphotos@cbc.ca. Now, have you noticed some of the incredible looking ducks that live here in British Columbia? You're about to meet two local birders, Connell and Ryan, listing their favorite fancy ducks. It's a short film made with our CBC Creator Network.
Who doesn't love ducks? Head down to any body of water and you're bound to see some dabbling away. But have you ever noticed that not all ducks look the same?
BC is actually home to a huge variety of ducks, and some of them are pretty fancy.
I'm Connell, I'm a wildlife conservationist.
I'm Ryan, I'm a wildlife filmmaker, and today we're gonna head out to film some of BC's fanciest ducks.
Let's get quacking. Both Ryan and I are big into birds and spend a lot of our time out bird watching. And no matter what, if I get the opportunity to stop and look at ducks, I'll always take it because they're just so beautiful. We've come down to the beach to find our first duck of the day, and I'm so excited about this one. It's the harlequin duck, one of my absolute favourite birds. Not only do they look amazing with that sort of reddish side and blue front, they're also really hardy, which is why we've come down to the rocky shoreline like this to see them.
My favorite thing about the harlequin ducks is they look like they're going to some kind of black tie event, especially the males. It looks like they're wearing a little tuxedo. It's really cool.
They're amazing swimmers both above and under the water, able to sustain waves, tides, and those fast-flowing streams. Under the water, they're kind of like little penguins, propelling themselves after their food with their wings and their feet. They can dive up to 20 meters, which is really impressive for a relatively small bird.
How are they to film?
These ducks are actually really difficult to film. They're really shy. Anytime you think you're about to get a good shot and you get close and you get the camera set up, they dive under the water and swim away. So it's been challenging, but still a lot of fun.
I've seen them described as sea mice before, which I think is really cute. And they're called sea mice because they don't quack like a more stereotypical duck. They squeak, kind of like a mouse. You'll often see them on their own or in pairs. They're fairly introverted and not that social, unlike the next duck we're going to go and see, which is the pintail.
So as you can see, we've shifted locations from the calm lagoon that we were at earlier. We've come here because this duck enjoys a little bit more action. The males have a long and impressive pointy tail and a beautiful blue beak. I also think that the females are quite understated. Just look at that intricate brown patterning. Pintails are a dabbling duck, so unlike the harlequin, they aren't diving for their food. Instead, they scoop it up with their beak, eating everything from worms to seeds. You can see them doing it when they dip their heads under the water. It also gives you a chance to admire their amazing tail. Something that's great about pintails is that they're found right across BC and Canada, so you have a chance of seeing them no matter where you live.
So why are we able to see so many of these fancy ducks? Well, BC sits on the Pacific Flyway, which is basically a highway for migratory birds. An estimated 8 million waterfowl migrate either to us or right over us. And this makes BC globally significant to the population of so many different species.
For our next duck, we've come to this bay on the Saanich Peninsula, and it's pretty exciting for me because it's a duck that I've never actually seen before. I'm from Alberta, recently moved to BC, so this is a completely new ecosystem for me. It's a surf scoter, and they are some of the most numerous ducks on the BC coastline. You can find these ducks almost anywhere, from ferry terminals to Stanley Park in Vancouver to the most remote corners of Vancouver Island. What makes a surf scoter fancy? Well, for me, it's definitely the beak. It's way different to any other beak that I've ever seen on a bird before. Connell mentioned migration earlier, and the surf scoters are making a pretty epic migration at the moment. They're coming from California and BC, and they're going all the way up into the Canadian North to breed. They gather in the thousands here along the coast, and they're pretty chaotic when they get together in these big groups.
Hey Connell,
Yes.
what's your favorite thing about surf scoters?
Oh, I love it when they fly. They make this really weird noise. It's kind of a whistling. They go whoop, 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 whoop. I've never heard a bird make a noise like it. Surf scoters are so much fun to watch, but we've got to leave them because we've got one more duck to go and find. Forget how to walk.
So to look for our last duck of the day, we've come to this forest here, which is probably not where you'd expect to find a duck.
Now, arguably, this is the fanciest one of the day, and there's a little pond around the corner, and hopefully we're gonna see some. See that duck in the tree over there? That's the fancy duck we're looking for. It's a wood duck. As the name suggests, they love to spend most of their time in and around trees, and you're most likely to see them in kind of sheltered lakes and ponds surrounded by vegetation. They even nest in the trees, in holes or cavities, but they don't build them themselves. They use ones that have been pecked out by pileated woodpeckers. One of their coolest adaptations is on their feet. They have these really sharp claws, which is unusual for most ducks. And this is to help them cling onto the wood and perch on branches. And if you look closely, they're a bit like dinosaur feet. Every time I see them, I feel like I notice a new pattern or color. They're outrageous. This is definitely the fanciest duck that we have here in BC. I do not think that it gets any better than this.
Ducks are a great reminder that you don't have to travel far or into remote areas to see incredible wildlife.
They're a really important part of the ecosystem here in BC, and it's been so much fun to go and see these fancy ducks. Thanks so much for watching.
Coming up, winter tornadoes are an increasing possibility as climate change continues. Johanna Wagstaffe is going to explain after the break.
The United States had more tornado reports in March 2022 than any other March on record. That's according to preliminary records released by the National Weather Service. There were 270 tornado touchdowns, more than double the average, and numbers may yet climb as surveys are completed. 3 main events made up the bulk of the reports, one in early March and 2 towards the end of the month. The episodes were intense, especially for so early in the year. The back-to-back late month outbreaks of 75 tornadoes, particularly notable considering the entirety of March is about 80 tornadoes on average. The March tally is expected to compare to numbers more like April and June, our peak tornado months in the south. Now, the weather setup that led to these outbreaks was prime. High temperatures and abundant humidity led to the instability, and then wind shear, the rotating winds, gave thunderstorms the spin they needed to turn into twisters. How much of the episodes were connected to climate change is presently unknown. The connection between tornadoes and climate change is not as clear as other weather-climate change connections, but new research is indicating that climate change has a large impact on when and where severe weather events occur, and that means earlier starts and more tornadoes in the typically quieter winter seasons. The elevated March tornado activity this year may be a sign of what's to come, especially across the south. Studies analyzing tornado trends have found spring numbers increasing in the U.S. South while decreasing in the plains. At the same time, the South is becoming more vulnerable to twisters because of population and development trends. So while March produced fatal tornadoes, the situation could have been much worse. Radar and forecast technology in the past 15 years has made it easier to detect and ultimately warn people. We knew all of these outbreaks were coming days, if not almost week in advance. And now you're science smart. If you have a science question on your mind, send me a tweet. I'll try to get it answered.
Johanna, thanks very much. You are watching Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. Now, we love to see stories about people from our city doing great things in the world. And our next guest is the first foreigner in 60 years to win one of Spain's most prized flamenco competitions, and the first woman to win that category to boot. And it all started for Lara Wong in the arts program at Lord Byng. Lara, hello there.
Hi, Gloria.
So where are you right now?
I am in Madrid, Spain. It's about 9:30 here right now, nighttime, but the night is young.
The night is young, in Madrid especially, because things don't get
Yes.
warmed up until after midnight usually. I'm sure that's how it
For
works.
sure.
Now, how did music in general, let's start with just music in general. How did that become such a big part of your life? When did it all start?
So I started playing piano when I was about 5 or 6. My mother loves music, so she she started teaching me at a very young age. And then around 11 years old, I started with the flute. And then probably around 10, I was already obsessed with Spanish music. So
So what do you think the appeal was, this passion for the Spanish music or flamenco?
there's just some things that aren't explainable, I guess. Some people are just born with some qualities, and I don't know. I was attracted to the sorrow and the sadness of the music. As a flute player, I never really liked the flute repertoire. It was always too happy and bird-like and chirpy. So I was really attracted to that dramatic dramatic intensity, I guess, and also the rhythmic, complexity of the rhythm also, and the energy.
Well, you're obviously made to do this, and for whatever reason, as you point out, it was your calling, it appears. So what did you have to do to win this big flamenco competition? This is the Festival Cante de las Minas.
Mm-hmm. So I really didn't think I would win this because flamenco is still a very closed genre of music, and they're not very open to foreigners. So I mean, it took years and years of practicing and living in Spain, and just I guess over the years I was able to I've been playing here, so just getting the real authentic quality of flamenco. And then I also was really lucky to have a great team of musicians with me that helped me kind of not prove myself, but yes, I guess people were surprised to see me with those musicians there. But overall, just practice and perseverance and kind of not letting people's comments get down on me.
Good on you. Good on you. And I mean, what does it mean to you to win too? I mean, the first woman, first of all, and the first time in 60 years that someone outside of Spain has taken that prize.
It was a huge deal. It was like I couldn't believe it, and I was just so happy because for so long I felt like it was kind of an impossible dream and things were going very slow, and also I had so much great feedback from all the other flamenco foreign artists, because we are quite a big community. I mean, in Canada there's a lot of flamenco in all the big cities, and so a lot of foreigners were really happy. It was like a big moment for all of us, just because it kind of meant flamenco was taking a big step towards becoming a more global art form.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Now, we normally, when we think of flamenco, you think about the guitarists, you know, the clappers, I guess, the ones that do the clapping, the palmistas. So what about for a flamenco flautist? What does your typical week look like?
So my typical week, well, it's usually a lot of practicing at home, and then if we have any concerts, either going out of town or playing here in Madrid. Right now I'm booking a bunch of shows for tours around Spain, France, and Canada, just because I recently released my new album, so my first album. So yes, it's a mix of office work, traveling, playing, and practicing.
How would you describe this point in your life? You've found your passion. You're able to nurture that passion, not only nurture it, but share it with the world.
It's pretty amazing. It's people always tell you to not do music because it's a very hard journey, and but I'm so happy to be doing what I love, and I feel really lucky that it's starting to go well for me, because it is really, really hard to make it. So yes, I feel very, very lucky.
Well, and there you are, living in the heart of flamenco country too. Lara, what a pleasure. Congratulations on the album. All the best with the tours. Really great to be able to connect with you today.
Thank you so much, Gloria.
Hi there, my name is Taz, and welcome to Taco Filon, Robson and Howe. And this is our Vancouver.
If you want to go and see some live music, the Hyperspace Metal Fest is running at the Rickshaw and Funky Winker Beans from April 15th to 17th. It's going to feature up-and-coming bands from the US and from Canada, including Into Eternity from Regina. There's also an Eventbrite link for Hyperspace if you want more information or tickets. And if you'd like to see a dance performance, the 15th anniversary of the Coastal Dance Festival takes place at the Anvil Centre in New Westminster. That's April 20th to 24th. This year, there are going to be 5 Indigenous Sami artists from Norway and Sweden, even an aerialist acrobat, as well as Indigenous artists from across Canada and the US. For tickets and information, just go to this website that we're showing you there, or search for Coastal Dance Festival.
Oh, oh, he, oh, ha, hey, ah, hey, hey, he, hey, ha, hey, ah, hey, hey, he, hey, ha, hey, ah.
Hey, I'm Grant Lawrence from CBC Music, here with some good news for soul music lovers. Toronto's soul R&B powerhouse Tanika Charles is back this week. She's releasing her 3rd album. It's called Papillon de Nuit. Butterfly of the Night. And before we get to a sizzling new track from that record, let's do a little bit of a rewind on the life and times of the great Tanika Charles.
Once lived my life on the prairies, not by choice. He told me we gon' get married. I was low, left behind kitchen doors. Got a woman feeling back and weary. Cooking that crab meat, drinking the back. Flew in a trailer full of the black. Flies on the window, feels like that. Tiny chin my running.
Going back to 2015, that's Tanika Charles with her breakout debut single called Soul Run. And it's meant to be an autobiographical tune, and it's one of those great can-do music stories that I love. Many years ago, Tanika Charles was living with her fiancé on a farm near Edmonton. That was going to be her life. Then she happened to see the band Bedouin Soundclash on TV, and Tanika had an epiphany. She left the farm and the fiancé, and get this, she actually got a job with Bedouin Soundclash as the backup singer and hit the road. Talk about a massive lifestyle change and gumption, which just happens to be the title for her second album.
Boy, I gotta tell me something. We've been going back and forth too long. Yeah. What gave you the gumption? You're stringing me along. Yeah, yeah. Make your mind. Giving you the time to decide. Make your mind. I wasn't ready to stand right by your side.
That is Toronto soul sensation Tanika Charles with Tell Me Something from her sophomore album, The Gumption. And hey, both of Tanika Charles's albums have been nominated for Junos and the Polaris Music Prize. This week, Tanika storms back onto the soul scene with a brand new third album, and the first single is a really great collaboration with Toronto rapper DJ SB.
What more can you do to me? Tell me what's there to lose, really? Baby, can we try? And I swear I won't go back on my words, unspoken that left us so broken. Close our eyes, don't eclipse the sunlight. Can these almost be new friends? Well, baby, let's pretend.
I'm the real deal. All these other guys are gimmicks. Sky's the limit, but I go beyond the physics and stay clean, stay stylish with it. And the pressure's high, but ain't nobody rapping better than I stay strapped, it's a hell of a ride. Hope you're feeling the vibes. Stay tuned, cause I'm still on the rise. We're on the road, it's a hell of a life. Like,
I wanna wake up not knowing what came before. I wanna reset so that we can take it slow.
There you go. That's Tanika Charles and DJ SB coming together on the song Different Morning. It's from Tanika Charles's brand new record out this week, Papillon de Nuit, Butterfly of the Night. Different Morning is the song that you need to add to your Sweet Soul playlist for this week. I'm Grant Lawrence, and I'll check in with you again soon.
Coming up, going to the chapel, then the banquet hall, or a hotel. The wedding industry is seeing a surge in business. Hi, welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. Well, the table is set for a very busy wedding season in BC. After several years of delays due to the pandemic, it's led to such a surge in demand for venues and for services. As Janella Hamilton reports, some businesses who have been desperate for work are now having to turn customers away.
When Liz Locke heard that most COVID-19 restrictions were lifting for large events, she and her partner were ecstatic.
We have had 3 iterations of our wedding plans based on some changes and challenges with the pandemic.
Locke says she's hoping third time is the charm and her wedding can go ahead as planned this July. But now she's facing a whole new set of challenges.
Our preferred venue has had a lot of restrictions during the pandemic, and they aren't able to give us a date to confirm until June. And a lot of caterers and a lot of restaurants right now say it depends. It depends. We don't know. We don't have staff to do something that big right now, but we might in the summer.
As a backup plan, Locke will use the rooftop patio at her apartment building to host a smaller ceremony. But finding available entertainment has also been tricky.
Since just before March break, it's been like, nope, 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 sorry, we're booked, we're full.
It's led to a wave of demand for small businesses in the industry.
Everybody who even had the tiny events planned that were, a week out, 2 weeks out, to being like, okay, change of plans, I'd like to actually quadruple the amount of people I'd like to have.
And that means staff in the kitchen are busier than ever.
We definitely turned down a decent amount of the inquiries coming in just because I don't want to overwork the team.
The owner of this floral shop says she too has had an increase in orders.
I'm excited to be able to just jump into these events and wedding season. It means that we'll be able to hire more people to come and work for us.
Over at South Hall Event Center, the phone has also been ringing off the hook.
People are looking to do events within a month, within a couple of weeks, some even during the week.
The venue is now booking weddings into 2024.
A lot of people use these events as a way to reconnect with people.
Something Locke is looking forward to.
I'm very grateful and optimistic that we will actually get to look out and see people's faces, and after the wedding we'll be able to hug them and cheers them in real life, and that's going to be, I think, an incredible moment.
And she's crossing her fingers that rules won't change again before then. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
April is Autism Awareness Month, and in Vancouver, a new type of housing development is bringing people with autism together as a community. It's an inclusive rental program that also includes supports and subsidies. And as Benit Brach reports, advocates are encouraging developers to consider more housing projects like it.
For Taryn Batchelor, this is home sweet home. Her favorite things about the space?
This rooftop, my friends, and the community. The view is right here. Look at that.
This building is a purpose-built rental. Since November, it's seen 16 apartments rented out to tenants like Taryn, who have autism or other developmental disabilities. For Batchelor, the space is a haven for friendship.
Like all my friends. It's nice to have them in the building.
And independence.
I like living here hanging out with friends and stuff. Not being at home anymore. I have my own space.
Tenants in the program receive subsidies to help with housing costs, and those who need additional support have a roommate or caregiver living with them. Volunteers, parents, and special needs advocates like John McCulloch have worked for years with developers to make this happen.
Well, this is the first time, as far as we're aware, that we've been able to move, in this case, 16 young adults with autism into a community, a regular, typical community in Vancouver. It's anyone with a developmental disability who's living on income assistance. That's the community that we're trying to work with.
For him, the hope is to foster more affordable and inclusive housing projects like this.
And there's an almost infinite requirement for this. We have a long wait list of people who would like to do this sort of, to move into this kind of building.
The housing is a comfort for tenants like Taryn, but also for parents.
I could cry when I hear, she's doing this, she's going there, and like, oh, hold it, wait, you don't know how to do that. Oh, I've got friends, they'll help me. It's just, it makes me want to cry because we're so fortunate.
We've been concerned for a long time that when myself and Bernie are gone, what's going to happen with Taryn? We have an answer to that solution. There's an answer to that now, and it's here.
And here, the day can mean cozying up on the couch, steaming up some tea to catch up with friends, or simply soaking up the sunshine on the patio. A new beginning for a forever home. Benit Brach, CBC News, Vancouver.
Benit, thank you so much for that story. Now, after 5 months of cleanup, class is back in session for students at an Abbotsford elementary school. It was flooded out in the atmospheric river back in November. Well, as John Hernandez shows us, the restoration finished just in time for the kids to enjoy the last few months of the school year.
3, 2, 1,
It's safe to say that recess tastes a bit sweeter than usual for the students at Upper Sumas Elementary School.
We missed this school! It's hard.
This week marks the first time these playgrounds have been packed with kids since last November, when the school was flooded amid an historic rain event that submerged much of the region.
The field where the kids were playing in the playground, it had about 3 or 4 feet of water in it, and it was slowly starting to rise. Water was coming across the roads. The lower parts of the school were already flooded.
Principal Abby Chan watched as water poured into the main floor of the school before he was forced to leave. He was allowed to come back 2 weeks later.
There was mud all over the lower floors. It was all brown. We could see that in some parts it hadn't drained enough yet. And I found a refrigerator that was floating by and desks overturned.
Students spent the next 5 months moving from school to school.
We got moved around a lot. We were in about 3 or 4 different locations.
Grade 5er Jordan Epp wondered if she'd ever return.
This is my last year. I didn't know then if I was ever going to be back.
Staff didn't think this school would reopen until September, but $1.6 million worth of speedy repairs from restoration crews and volunteers meant the work was done by the end of spring break.
As it got closer and closer and it stuck that we were opening up after spring break, it was really, really exciting.
It's more familiar. Everything is where I remember it. It's like walking away from your house and then coming back 5 years later, and it's the exact same.
And while there's still plenty of unpacking to do, staff are taking the time to reimagine how they make use of these spaces, including a new shared room for student services and Indigenous support.
We're really trying to build something new out of the old and really create something different to offer to our school community.
A new and promising beginning for this school, rebuilding after destruction and months of uncertainty. John Hernandez, CBC News, Abbotsford.
Coming up, what reconciliation looks like when an East Kootenay community reclaims a former residential school. You are watching Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. Now, since closing, some former residential schools in BC have been demolished, like the ones in Alert Bay and Lower Post. But at one site in the East Kootenays, there is renewal. And our Kootenays Bureau reporter Brendan Coulter takes us there to meet the Indigenous community that has claimed ownership of the former St. Eugene Mission.
The St. Eugene Resort and Casino still holds many memories for Sophie Pierre.
So this is a picture of my first communion, my class.
Pierre has become one of the leading voices in British Columbia for Indigenous issues and development. She spent 26 years as the chief of the St. Mary's Indian Band and much of her childhood at the St. Eugene Mission School.
The most powerful memory that I have of being here for those 9 years, coming here as a 6-year-old and then leaving as a 15-year-old, is the incredible loneliness of the place.
Built in 1910, this institution sat empty after it closed in 1970. Ironically, the Ktunaxa Nation turned a place of forced assimilation into a place of new financial opportunity.
This was our own people, our 5 communities that made that choice. And it was a really tough thing to do.
But just like all tourism businesses, St. Eugene has struggled in the past 2 years. Restrictions have forced the business to become seasonal, closing down over the winters. And then Pierre's band also heard about potential unmarked graves found at other Indian residential school sites.
It came as a huge surprise to all of us.
She says her band knew there were unmarked graves at this site because they use wooden crosses, which can burn or rot.
It's not the same as what's happened in Kamloops. We are talking about graves that are inside the graveyard. However, unfortunately, it just got away with the media. The person interviewing me finding out that I was a former student, wanted to portray me as some kind of victim. And so, I'm nobody's victim. I was victimized as a child. That was not my fault, and I'm not a victim.
As for the papal apology, at this point, for Pierre, it's meaningless.
It would have meant a lot more to my mother's generation than it does to mine, quite frankly.
Brendan Coulter, CBC News, Cranbrook.
Hi, my name is Gina. This is our Vancouver.
Brendan, thank you so much for that story. Now, we have been hearing for months about the rise in grocery prices. There's the pandemic, the price of oil, supply chain issues. They've all brought higher costs. Now, has that changed the way that you buy food? It was 50 years ago when Canadians were introduced to a new concept. The No Frills chain opened its first store, and CBC's The National was there.
Times are changing in the supermarket business. Loblaws, for instance, is the company that once pushed lucky green stamps and a host of other gimmicks to entice shoppers. Today, though, it's trying the opposite approach. Not only can you forget about green stamps, this store in Toronto won't even give you a bag unless you pay 3 cents for it. And there's no butcher, no bakery, no frozen food, no air conditioning, no fancy displays, and not even much choice of products. But what it does have is customers, because since it opened last week, it's been offering prices that are claimed to be 10% lower than anywhere else. The idea was picked up in Europe by Loblaw's president.
I'm Dave Nichols.
Jerry?
Yeah, I am.
I think this is one hell of a mess.
You do? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to hear that.
And we're all taking up the petition on our street.
Well, he can't convince everyone, but Nicholl has convinced the Weston company that owns Loblaws that consumer preferences are changing. For items like toothpaste and shampoo, nearly 50% of people now are buying the lower-priced, no-name brands. And Nicholl wants Loblaws to be the first chain to take advantage of this trend store-wide. He's new to the grocery trade, but he is out of Harvard Law School, he was a successful business consultant, and he is a very smooth talker.
And then they put the stupid color on. Looks like Baptist in college.
As you can see, there are some people who don't seem to be particularly enamored with the color of the store.
The key to lower prices at this store, says Nicholl, is lower labor costs.
Out of the average dollar that the Canadian consumer pays, they're paying anywhere from, I would say, somewhere between 10 and 13 cents out of that dollar for labor in the supermarket. I think that we would hope to use about a third of that labor.
Cutting labor costs means, for instance, that you have to pack your own grocery bag.
How do you like having to pack your own bag?
Don't like it. It's all right, I didn't know I was supposed to have a bag. I'll bring my own next time.
You'd come back next time?
Oh, well, of course.
If this store catches on and makes money, Loblaws will start opening more like it. And if that happens, the other chains won't be far behind. Michael Vaughan, CBC News, Toronto.
When we bring you these stories here at CBC Vancouver, we have award-winning photographers out capturing the images that say so much. Still images can add context and bring a lot more to the understanding of an event or an issue. So here are some of the latest images from what happened this past week. And that's all for Our Vancouver for this week. I hope you can join me weekday afternoons on CBC Radio 1 for On the Coast. For now, goodbye.
It's so amazing and beautiful. It really is.
Yeah, no, that's a nice one.
Yeah.